Imagine you're standing in the middle of a busy city. Cars are honking, people are rushing past you with coffee cups and phones. A kid drops his ice cream on the sidewalk and starts crying. A street musician is playing something on the corner. Pigeons are doing what pigeons do. It's loud, it's chaotic, it's completely alive. What if everything you're looking at, every building, every street, every single thing around you had already been completely destroyed? Not once, not twice, 7 times. And every single time someone came back and built it all over again in the exact same spot. That's not a hypothetical, that's not mythology, that actually happened. The city where it happened still exists today. You can go there, you can walk those streets, you can touch the walls. The city is Troy, not because of the famous war, not because of the wooden horse, but because human beings, across thousands of years, kept coming back to this one specific piece of land after fire, after conquest, after total annihilation. We need to start about 5,000 years ago, not with war, not with kings, but with a hill. There is a hill in what is now northwestern Turkey, near the coast of the Aegean Sea. From far away you'd drive past it without a second thought. But that hill sits at one of the most strategically valuable pieces of real estate in the ancient world. It controls the entrance to the Dardanelles Strait, the narrow waterway that connects the Aegean Sea to the Black Sea. Whoever controlled that strait controlled trade between Europe and Asia. Grain, copper, tin, gold, everything moved through that channel. So people built there. Of course they did. Round 3000 BC, a small settlement appeared on that hill. Archaeologists call it Troy the Fresh. A few mud brick buildings, a basic defensive wall, a community of maybe a few hundred people. Picture a small town on a road trip, one main street, a diner, a gas station, a hardware store. But this town sits right at the only bridge crossing for 200 miles in either direction. Every traveler has to pass through. Around 2550 BC, Troy, the preparats of burned, Archaeologists found the evidence in the soil, a thick layer of ash and charred wood across the entire site. But people came back. They built again on the same hill. Troy too was richer, more fortified, more ambitious. They found gold here, silver, sophisticated metalwork. When Schliemann excavated this layer in the 1870s, he was so convinced he had found the treasure of King Priam that he smuggled the artifacts out of the country. He was wrong about which layer it was. The treasure predated the Trojan War by more than 1,000 years. And then Troy too was destroyed too. If your town burned down, if the place where you grew up was reduced to ash, what would most people do? They'd leave. But the people of Troy didn't do that. They stayed. They rebuilt. Troy 3, Troy Voith, smaller, less grand, less wealthy. This is a community that had already been destroyed at least twice and came back both times. They weren't building an empire, they were holding ground. The hill was being held, not gloriously, just held. By the time we reached Troy the Sixths, roughly 1750 to 1300 BC, the city has transformed into something genuinely impressive. The walls are massive, some sections nearly 5 meters thick and 9 meters tall. The city is prosperous, trading across the Mediterranean with a palace and a lower city. There are horses here. In the Bronze Age Mediterranean, that was a serious marker of wealth and military power. This is not a struggling outpost. This is a capital. Now, here's where most videos get it wrong. Troy 6th was most likely destroyed by a major earthquake around 1300 BC. The archaeological evidence shows collapsed walls consistent with seismic activity, not a siege. But the layer directly above it, Troy 70A, shows something different. Burned buildings, weapons left behind. Signs of rapid overcrowding as people from the surrounding region sheltered inside the walls. Troy Zero Valor was destroyed around 1180 BC by violence. If the Trojan War happened at all, this is the most likely candidate. The earthquake destroyed the magnificent city. The war, if there was one, finished what was left. Think about a city you know. Picture the skyline, the neighborhoods, the parks, the restaurants where people eat on Friday nights, the places where kids play on weekends. Now imagine an army arriving. Thousands of soldiers on foot with bronze weapons surrounding your city completely. Every road in and out, every supply route, gone. And then imagine that going on not for days or weeks, but for years. The food running low in the first winter, the way fear changes people. The arguments about whether to negotiate, whether to fight, whether to send the women and children away. The slow degradation of everything that made the city feel like home. And then imagine the walls finally breaking. And imagine what comes after that. That's what happened here, and yet people came back again. The Mycenaean Greeks collapsed. The Hittite Empire disappeared from history so completely their existence was forgotten until the 19th century. The Egyptian New Kingdom nearly collapsed. Trade networks that had operated for 1,000 years went silent. It was the closest thing the ancient world ever had to a global civilizational reset. And Troy fell with it. After the collapse, the hill sat largely abandoned for roughly 3 centuries. Generation after generation was born, lived, and died without anything significant being built there. The great walls crumbled slowly under frost and rain. The ruins disappeared under grass and soil. If you had walked past that hill in 900 BC, you would have seen nothing remarkable. A low mound, some scattered stones. The city had forgotten itself. And then the Greeks came, not as conquerors, as settlers. Around 700 BC, Greek colonists established a new city on the same hill and called it Ilion. They knew this was the site of Troy. They knew they were building on top of legend. There was cultural prestige in living on the ground where the Great War had been fought, where Achilles had raged, where Hector had stood on the walls. Think about New Orleans after Katrina, the fierce, almost defiant pride in the city's survival. Think about Hiroshima, which rebuilt itself into one of the most livable cities in Japan. The destruction doesn't just leave scars, sometimes it leaves meaning, and meaning is what makes a place worth returning to. Ilion grew into a real Hellenistic city, temples, a theater, a gymnasium. Alexander the Great visited in 334 BC, at the very start of his campaign to conquer Persia. He crossed the Dardanelles, the same strait Troy had guarded for millennia, and his first stop was Ilion. He made offerings at the tomb of Achilles, anointed the gravestone with oil. He dedicated his own armor to the temple of Athena, taking in exchange a shield said to date from the Trojan War. He carried that shield into battle. He saw himself as a new Achilles. Standing on this ground mattered to him, not superstition, but identity. And then Rome came. Founding myth of Rome claims that Rome was founded by Aeneas, a Trojan prince who escaped when the city fell. For the Romans, Troy wasn't an ancient ruin. Troy was the origin point, the place where Roman history began. Julius Caesar visited and stood on the plain, imagining the battle, identifying locations from the Iliad. Augustus visited and ordered major reconstruction, tax exemptions, imperial patronage. A Roman Troy rose on the same hill where the Bronze Age city had stood 2,000 years earlier. Imagine that your entire nation traced its founding myth back to a city on the other side of the world. The pilgrimages, the investment, the sense that your very existence as a people is connected to what happened here. That's what Troy meant to Rome, not a tourist attraction, something close to sacred. And then Rome fell, and Troy fell with it again. A small settlement persisted into the early Byzantine period, but it was a shadow of what had been there before. By the medieval period, the settlement had effectively disappeared. The hill became farmland. The Crusaders passed nearby without recognizing what lay beneath the fields they crossed. The Ottoman Empire controlled the Dardanelles, the same strait Troy had guarded 4,000 years earlier. The location of Troy was not just abandoned, it was forgotten. Scholars in the 17th and 18th centuries genuinely debated where Homer's Troy had actually been. The most important city in Western literature had become a ghost, and then came Heinrich Schliemann. In 1868, a self-taught German businessman arrived in northwestern Turkey carrying a copy of Homer. The academic establishment thought he was a fool. He didn't care. He started digging on the hill at Hisarlik in 1871. He uncovered not one ancient city, but multiple cities, stacked directly on top of each other in distinct layers. Each one separated from the next by a layer of destruction, ash, burned debris, collapsed walls. Eventually, archaeologists identified 9 major layers, Troy, I through Troy Naiths. 9 layers, but 7 significant destructions. Some layers transitioned gradually, rather than through catastrophic events. 9 chapters, 7 collapses. One hill that kept pulling people back. Why here? Why did human beings keep coming back through 7 complete destructions? The answer has 3 parts. None of them are supernatural. The first reason is geography. The hill sits where 2 worlds meet, the Aegean to the west, the Black Sea to the northeast, divided by the Dardanelles. Every ship moving between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea had to pass through it. The currents run fast and unpredictable. Ancient sailors had to wait for the right wind, sometimes for days. And while they waited, they needed a harbor, fresh water, food, repairs. The city at the entrance to that strait didn't just tax trade, it was trade. You don't abandon that position because someone burned down your buildings. The position is worth more than the buildings ever were. The second reason is investment. Once a city exists, everything around it, roads, farmland, trade networks, creates a gravity that makes returning easier than leaving. The foundations are already there, literally and figuratively. Starting over somewhere else means abandoning everything accumulated over generations. The third reason is the most powerful, its identity. After a certain point, Troy existed not just as a strategic asset, but as a story. People will rebuild in flood zones because their family has always lived there. They will return to damaged neighborhoods because those neighborhoods are who they are. Warsaw was deliberately destroyed by the Nazis. 90% of the city reduced to rubble after the 1944 uprising. The Polish people returned and rebuilt Warsaw to look exactly as it had before, using old photographs and drawings. They rebuilt the royal castle stone by stone, not because it was efficient, because the city's appearance was the city's identity. Think about communities in Mosul who returned to rebuild neighborhoods that had been turned into battlegrounds. The corner where your father's shop had been, the house where your children were born. Think about the lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans, where residents have fought to return for nearly 20 years since Katrina. Rational analysis says leave, but rational analysis doesn't account for 3 generations in the same house. Cities are not physical things. They are stories we tell about places. And when the physical city is destroyed, the stories survive in the people who carry them, in the literature that recorded them. And the stories are what bring people back. Troy was destroyed 7 times. 7 times the story was stronger than the destruction. Every city standing today has a clock on it. The ones that survive won't survive because they were built from the right materials. They will survive because the story attached to them was strong enough to make people want to come back. Troy survived because people decided again and again across 5,000 years that the story was worth continuing. Jericho has evidence of human settlement stretching back more than 10,000 years. 10,000. That is not a typo. Archaeologists have identified more than 20 distinct layers of occupation at the site, and people are still living there today. Byblos on the coast of modern Lebanon has been continuously inhabited for 7,000 to 9,000 years. Each civilization built on the ruins of the last. Athens was sacked and burned by the Persian army of Xerxes in 480 BC. The Acropolis destroyed, the temples burned. The Athenians came back within a year and began rebuilding. The Parthenon was built on the ruins of an older temple that the Persians had burned. The destruction became the foundation for something greater. Rome was sacked by the Gauls in 390 BC, by the Visigoths in 410 AD, by the Vandals in 455 AD. Each time, the city continued, reduced, changed, transformed, but continuous. You can walk through a medieval church in Rome and find Roman columns in the walls, and beneath the floor a temple that predates Christianity by 5 centuries. What Troy shows us is that this pattern of destruction and return is not the exception in human history, it is the rule. Cities are not built once. They are built continuously, layer by layer. The question is never whether a city will be destroyed. The question is whether the story is strong enough to survive. Troy's story survived 5,000 years. It survived because Homer wrote it down, because Alexander read Homer, because Virgil built Rome's founding myth on top of it. It survived because Schliemann refused to believe it was fiction. And it survives today because people like you are still curious about it. That curiosity is not a small thing. It is the same impulse that brought those Bronze Age settlers back to a burned hill 5,000 years ago. You are, in a small but genuine way, part of the same chain. The curiosity that keeps Troy alive today is the same human impulse that kept it alive across all 7 of its destructions. Not that it was destroyed 7 times, but that it never stopped mattering. 5,000 years after the first settlement appeared on that hill, you can still go there. The site is in the Çanakkale province of northwestern Turkey. There is a modern museum, opened in 2018. And then there is the site itself. Excavated earth where the actual layers are visible, different colors and textures stacked on top of each other. You can stand on stones that were old when ancient Greece was young. You can look out at the plain and at the distant glint of the strait that made all of this worth fighting for. And if you stand there quietly, you can feel the weight of it. Not in a mystical way, just in the simple, overwhelming way that very old places remind you that you are a very small part of a very long story. The city was destroyed 7 times, and it still exists, and people are still going there. That's not mythology, that's just what humans do. We find a place, we build something, we lose it, and then we come back. We dig through the rubble. We lay new foundations on the old ones. We build again. Drop a comment right now and tell me which layer of Troy's history hit you hardest. The Bronze Age capital that might have actually fought the Trojan War. The Greek colonists who built on a legend. The Romans who claimed Troy as their birthplace. Or the quiet centuries of Troy 3, Vault IV and V, the anonymous people who just held the ground. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Because the next story starts with a single clay tablet, pulled from the rubble of a palace that shouldn't have existed, written in a language no one alive could read. One tablet, and it changed everything.